Without question, Tibet remains one of the most sensitive issues in U.S.-China relations. Conflict between Tibetan aspirations and Chinese policy is found within cultural, religious, and educational spheres. As the Chinese government seeks to diminish or altogether eliminate aspects of Tibetan culture that it regards as threatening, the peaceful exercise of internationally recognized human rights is systematically suppressed. Inside the Tibet Autonomous Region and Tibetan Autonomous Region areas, Chinese officials have increased restrictions on the religious and cultural life of Tibetans over the past decade by implementing pervasive controls and restrictions on religious practice. This trend was highlighted in the Commission's most recent annual report. Beginning in 2016, Chinese authorities targeted renowned centers of Buddhist learning with demolition and reportedly expelled more than 4,800 Tibetan Buddhist monks and nuns and subjected them to periods of patriotic education, and I say that within quotes, patriotic education lasting from several weeks to 6 months. There are more than 500 cases of Tibetan political or religious prisoners currently in detention who are in this Commission's political prisoner database, a staggering figure that is far from exhaustive. Access to Tibet for foreign journalists, non-governmental organizations, and diplomats remains severely restricted. At the same time, the Chinese Communist Party's government exports its authoritarianism abroad, pressuring foreign academic institutions who invite the Dalai Lama to speak on campus, as well as businesses who mention his name or the Tibet Autonomous Region as a distinct region. It is this dimension of global Chinese censorship which has thus thrust Tibet into the news in recent days. Every week, it seems, another major international company is publicly, and in some cases shamelessly, apologizing to the PRC for some sort of misstep related to Tibet, the Dalai Lama, or otherwise sensitive issues. Driven by their bottom line and China's vast market, many companies are increasingly prepared to toe Beijing's line. There's a certain grim irony to the Chinese government demanding that businesses apologize for social media posts on social media platforms that are actually blocked inside of China. It is clear that the cost of doing business for foreign companies in China keeps getting steeper, and at the same time, there's little price to be paid in the West when companies engage in self-censorship to further their bottom line, despite the fact that it is antithetical to the values that underpin our own society, the values, by the way, that allow these companies to even exist in the first place. We will explore all of these topics during today's hearing, in addition to the future of the Dalai Lama's succession, China's efforts to control water resources and expand its military presence on the Tibetan Plateau, and the impact on the broader U.S. strategic interest in human rights. Before turning to our witnesses, I would be remiss if I did not underscore how pleased we are to welcome the Tibetan filmmaker Dundap Wanchen to today's hearing. It is not often that we are able to welcome to the witness stand political prisoners whose cases the Commission has highlighted in our prisoner database, in letters to the administration, on our social media. Set against the backdrop of a different Olympic Games in Asia, it is fitting to recall that Mr. Wancheng's crime, quote unquote, was the making of a short documentary film, Leaving Fear Behind, in 2008, which was based on 108 interviews he conducted with Tibetans who expressed views on a range of issues from the Dalai Lama to the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Golong Jigme, Mr. Wanchen's assistant in producing the film, was among the witnesses at an April 2016 Commission hearing titled China's Pervasive Use of Torture. He too was subsequently detained in 2008 for his work on the documentary, and during his detention he was severely tortured. Mr. Wancheng, we welcome you to America. We welcome you to safety and to freedom, and we stand with you in working towards the day when the Tibetan people are afforded these same protections.